welcome back to another video. And what is the question? Yes, it is, what is my money no object dream car? Now, today I'm going to explain that to you and why, and then basically you're going to make your opinion on the car. Well, yeah. And also the question, what is yours? Please comment below after this video. But let's get right into it. So I'm not one for wanting many cars. Now I'm not particularly bothered about high-end cars, modern stuff, really. I'm a proper car guy. I don't give a monkeys about supercars. However, I care more about all 1.6 Astras and 8-valve Golf GTIs. That is something that I care more about. So my dream car is actually nothing glamorous. However, it is a widely unknown, and even if it isn't unknown, it's unknown capabilities, basically. Now, my top 5 dream cars does not contain the Nissan Skyline GT-R R32, which most of you will have thought of with this channel being named after that. That comes into the top 10. Now, my top 5 consists of one high-end modern supercar, which is the Ford GT, because it's very different to normal supercars in the fact that firstly, it's got a rubbish badge. Secondly, it's got a V6, and secondly, it looks cool and is basically a handling and top speed god. But other than that, it's much better to drive than any Ferrari, McLaren or Lamborghini on the planet at the minute. It's just too expensive, but it's got a lot of character and that's why I like it. But that comes in 4th place. 5th place is the Mazda MX-5 Mark 1. 3rd place is the Ford Sierra Sapphire Cosworth. Absolute gem, love that car. Number 2 is the Bristol Fighter T, which none of you will probably know of. And then number 1. Yep, it is the Vauxhall Lotus Carlton. So why the Vauxhall Lotus Carlton, you may ask? Well, this car is not a Vauxhall. No, it's not. This is very different. Basically, Vauxhall was sat there in the late 80s going, right, we want to enter the competitive, sporty saloon market. So they were sat there along with the BMW M3, the Mercedes 190e and the Ford Sierra Sapphire Cosworth thinking, let's basically go around these cars. So respectively, at this time, the Cosworth Mercedes could do 143, the M3 could do 146 miles an hour, and the Ford could do 151. They all had around the 200 horsepower mark. They all had 4-cylinder engines, albeit the Ford was the only one that was turbocharged. They all had rear-wheel drive at this point, and the Carlton was basically a rival to those. It was a small saloon, so it wasn't as big as the 5 Series that was out at the time. The M5 was around then, doing 153 miles an hour or so. So Vauxhall wanted to basically rival the small Cosworth-powered saloons and the M3. However, Lotus went a little bit mad because they gave the Carlton a 1200 kilo rear-wheel drive sports saloon that doesn't weigh much at all compared to a modern saloon, 377 brake horsepower. They took the 3-litre straight 6, I believe, 100% if that's true or not, from the Carlton. They bored it out, basically threw it away and started again, and put in a 3.6 litre twin turbocharged inline 6-cylinder in the front, mated it to a 6-speed manual gearbox in the middle, and then rear wheel drive. This thing was rapid. 377 horsepower in a car that weighs 1200 kilos back then. You can probably guess what the government wanted to do. Yet, this car has no car in the history of automobiles has ever caused so much of a political stir as much as the Lotus Carlton did, except from the Shelby Daytona, which sort of resulted in the speed limits. This car was on the verge of being banned from the UK roads because it was so fast. This thing doesn't look it, but on the right road, in a realistic situation, not even a modern hypercar would be able to stand a chance against the Lotus Carlton. in a realistic situation on a realistic road with the bumps, the curves, the width, other road users, speed limits, would not stand a hope in hell against Lotus Carlton. The thing with it is it was one of the fastest cars on the planet when it came out. The fastest car in the world in 1990 when the Lotus Carlton came out was the Lamborghini Diablo. Did 202 miles an hour. The Lotus Carlton was claimed at 177 by Vauxhall. Now that claim only came about after the supposed banning. The actual car could easily exceed 190 miles an hour. There's been cases of it exceeding 190, exceeding 186. There was people also car driving them at 180 or 185 miles an hour and they were sat comfortably. The sixth gear that they had was huge. You went into sixth at 170 odd miles an hour, nearly at the top speed, and then it would continue because the sixth gear would just, it wasn't even a cruising gear, but it was so long that its top speed was just mad. If somebody ever took a Lotus Carlton to its maximum potential, the question is, would it do 203 miles an hour? If it could, it would have therefore been the fastest car in the world in 1990. I think it could get quite close to the 200 mile an hour mark because it doesn't weigh anything. It's got fabulous aerodynamics. It's got a lot of power and the right gear ratios in order to do that. Its theoretical top speed will be mad. The Vauxhall had to then lie and say that they limited the top speed of the Vauxhall when they couldn't afford it. So basically, Lotus and Vauxhall just thought, stuff it, we'll lie. And there was this 190 mile an hour car that was perfectly affordable to the most people that had 4 doors. It was crazy. And the thing is, Lotus didn't just tune the engine. They did the rear diff, had a limited slip diff, 4 disc brakes all around, were nearly as big as the Carlton itself. It could out-handle, out-brake, out-accelerate and out-top speed any supercar on the planet at that point, except from like the Diablos. The Ferrari 348, for example, was slower. It had 80 horsepower less. It had a lower top speed. It was slower to 60. It couldn't handle as well. It couldn't brake as well. This was a mid-engine sports car that was slower than the Lotus Carlton. That's everything. This was an Autobahn Thrasher. This killed the Nürburgring. It flipping. And then it could just be a relaxing cruiser every other day. Take kids to school in it. You could go shopping in it. People wouldn't give it a second look. But you take that to a racetrack back in the 90s and nothing would stand a hope in hell. To be honest, very little modern saloons would stand a hope in hell against a Lotus Carlton because they're too heavy. The fact is, this car weighs nearly half what some modern saloons weigh. Example, a Porsche Panamera now, the basic V6 one, is verging on 2.2 tons. That's 1,000 kilos more than what a Lotus Carlton weighs at its best, nearly. I mean, this thing was actually quite a heavy car, but not by modern standards. It's much better to drive than all of the saloons. It's got a manual gearbox, it's rear-wheel drive, it's engaging, it's got character, it's got a rubbish badge which makes people think it's crap and it's not. And I like that. And the thing is, they're rare. These cars are 1,000 times rarer than a Ferrari 488 or a Lamborghini Huracan in the UK. 1,000 times. You've got 1,000 times more of a chance of stepping out your door and seeing a Lamborghini Huracan or any modern supercar really than you have of seeing a Lotus Carlton. There are 43 of these gems left on the road. I've only ever seen 4 in my life, 2 of which were in the museum. One was the European spec Opel Omega Lotus. So they're rare. So that's why I like them, basically. It's alright saying that when you grow up you want a Lotus, or you want a McLaren 765 LT, not 675, that's not in production anymore. But you know what I mean. You're not going to afford that for starters, and secondly, it's not that good realistically. You're never going to use the car. It's going to be locked in a garage. You don't live near a racetrack, so you're not really going to enjoy it until you get there. And living with a supercar is a pain in the bumhole. They don't have very good boot space. You can't take your mates out with you in them. You can't take kids to school in them because realistically you're not going to be single for the rest of your life unless you're a loner. So basically you need a car that, as well as being good on a racetrack, as well as having a near 200 mile an hour top speed, as well as being incredible to drive, you can also do other things with. Because the thing with the Lotus Carlton is, yes, they're about 100 grand, but I'd rather spend that 100 grand on a car that can get me to the racetrack, round a lap faster than most of the cars, be more fun than all of the cars, and then get me home without breaking down, without needing to swap cars, without breaking a sweat basically, without actually worrying about, oh my god, am I going to hit a pothole? Oh my god, am I going to curb a wheel or something? It's a Vauxhall, parts are a bargain. Basically, Vauxhall did the styling. It's a Lotus car, it's a flipping Carlton. You can get body panels for as cheap as chips on a Vauxhall. And the engine, the Vauxhall engine, just been heavily rebuilt by Lotus. So, I mean, it's a Vauxhall. It's going to be bargain. It's a bargain to do up and run. But the art of this car is the fact that instead of just having a supercar and then having a car that you can go do everything else in, you only need this car. You only need to be able to have a Lotus Carlton in order to thrash Ferraris, thrash Lamborghinis, take it to nearly 200 miles an hour, have some fun on a racetrack. But then you can do everything else that you want to do in it. You can say to your mates, do you want to come out? Go somewhere for a day. It's big, it's practical, it's got a big boot, it's got loads of space in the back. It's a perfect family car, which is why they were used as family. That's why they were very good saloon cars. But Lotus just went over the top and created an absolute monster of a car. And what annoys me is a lot of people don't know how good this car is. I mean, I love this car and I think it looks good as well. And realistically, it is the only sort of high-end or expensive car that anybody's ever got a chance of owning. I'd rather have my dream car set at something that I have a chance that I could possibly own, rather than something that I know I'll never own in my life. I know will never be that good, realistically, and I'd only be able to use once a year when the sun's nice, sun's shining, which it never is in Britain. So I don't understand the modern array of, no offence, but kids, because they're just like, I want a Ferrari SF90, oh, I want a Ferrari 488 or a Lamborghini Aventador or Huracan or something. Yeah, you want that, but you're not going to be able to. You can't buy it at all. Not possible. Bottoms up. You're not going to be able to buy one of them. And the thing is, you'll need to then buy another car. Because you can't daily them. Because they're terrible. They're terrible daily drivers. And realistically, you're going to get thrashed by a Fiesta ST on a back road. What's the point in paying 100 grand or like £200,000 on a Huracan or an Audi R8 or something, to then only have that car to show off? Because the thing is, they're terrible anyway. They're actually not that good to drive in real life. I mean, they're all automatics for starters, which is boring, not skillful, and I think quite dangerous because you're not engaging with the car. But then you're also driving in a car that's unnecessary in terms of its performance. And the way they deliver the performance isn't as effective as something like a Carlton. The thing is, you know that those are going to be first, but then you'll be disappointed when they're not that first. The thing with the Lotus Carlton or something is you don't expect it to be that fast. But it is. It goes like it's been pushed off the edge of a cliff. It's incredible how that thing moves. And it out-accelerates pretty much anything with 4 doors, except from anything with 700 horsepower. But with something around that performance, in like modern-wise, don't stand a hope in hell against a Carlton. Not even a chance. And what really, really annoys me is that racing games have them heavily nerfed, like the government basically wanted them to be. A Lotus Carlton in Forza Motorsport 7 is so much slower than it should be, because that car is fast. But what annoys me is the modern sort of array of kids. And no offence, but most of them are not proper car guys. They're car enthusiasts because they like cars, but they're not car guys. I will be doing a video soon on what makes you a true car guy, because there's a lot of confusion between the two. And they just want £1 million supercars, which are pointless, unnecessary, too common nowadays, and no fun anymore. They've had their day, they're not fun. These classics are way cooler, rarer, more reliable, much nicer to look at, and people actually look at you more if you're in an older car, because they go, oh my god, look, I don't remember that. I remember those, they're cool. And then if you drive past them in a Bugatti, they'll go, you absolute beep. And basically that's how life works for supercar owners. They get called naughty things every day of their life, and they will get ridiculed for it, for driving a supercar around a city centre. You will not if you drive a flipping Vauxhall Carlton. That's why I like them, because they're understated. They look fairly rubbish. That's because Vauxhall did the styling. But to drive, I actually don't think there is any car on the planet that is better to drive than a Lotus Carlton. I don't think it's possible. I actually, genuinely, it's not the greatest car of all time, but it's definitely in the top 5 for what it did for the saloon sector. This car took the boundary of horsepower from 200 to 400, like that. This car was faster than every BMW M5 up until the E60, which came out in about 2004-ish. So 14 years after. 14 years of BMW M5 couldn't keep up with the Carlton. And even then, the E60's de-restricted top speed wasn't much more than the Carlton. And to be honest, its rolling acceleration wasn't much better. The only reason it was slightly faster is because it had 130 horsepower more. But this car is first by today's standards for a four-door saloon. It's incredible how quickly that thing moves. Even now, I mean, it's 30 years old for Pete's sake, but it goes like the clappers. It's incredible. I'm actually like flabbergasted by how quick they are, and I know about the history of them. I know what they are as a car, and even me have seen them in person. It's surprising how amazing those things are. It shows that when you get a professional Formula 1 team to tune your car, that's what happens. Because all Cosworth did to the fabulous Sierra Sapphire was tune the engine. It was Ford who did basically the underpinnings. Vauxhall's Carlton, the only bit that's really a Vauxhall is the body. The whole underside of the car was completely changed when Lotus got a hold of it. And that's why it's such an incredible little car. I don't think it's possible, really, for a car like it to be done again. Especially with a manual gearbox rear-wheel drive and its level of performance in a sort of understated saloon car. I reckon that the modern Sierra Cosworth equivalent, so the Sierra Cosworth is effectively the baby Carlton. We'll go into that in a different video if you'd like. The Sierra was incredible when it came out, especially against the M3 and the 190E. They can't keep up with Sierra. Sierra's a lot faster than both of them. It's nearly a second quicker to 60 than the M3, and it's over a second quicker to 60 than the 190E. It's also better handling and better braking than both of them. However, it's basically the modern equivalent of the Sierra Cozzy is the Kia Stinger GT, because there's nothing wrong with that car. Not a single thing wrong with it. It handles well, it brakes well, it's fast, it was nearly 170 mph, sounds good, it looks sensational. But people don't buy it because they're snobby and all they want is a stupid badge. No, it's a Kia. Who gives them monkeys? It's a fabulous car. It's better than the M340i and the C43 and Audi S4 by a long way. It's like 10 grand cheaper than all three of them. The Sierra was cheaper and faster than the German equivalents. And better. The Kia is that. In fact, it's probably an all-time great for changing the level of, like, underrated brands for Kia Stinger. It's incredible what it has done. But I don't think that there's a modern equivalent of the Lotus Carlton. I don't think there is. There is of the Sierra Cozzy, but there isn't, I don't think, of the Lotus Carlton. And if it's, I reckon that the Lotus Carlton is the greatest four-door car, as well as saloon car, ever built, as well as a top 5 great, all-time great cars, and one of the best. It is one of the best driver's cars on the planet. One of the fastest four-door cars ever produced. I wouldn't say it's that good looking, really. It's just a Vauxhall, but it's not about what you see on the outside. It's what about goes on underneath and inside of that body that really creates the perfect car. And for me, that's what the Carlton is. It's fabulous, and that's why it is my money no object dream car. So what do you think of my money no object dream car? Now, a lot of you will be still sat there thinking, well, it's a Vauxhall, why would you want a Vauxhall? But I've explained that to you, and I will until you're blue in the face. Supercars are not the be all and end all. Yes, you can like them. I mean, I've got the Ford GT in my list of dream cars. It's a brilliant car. But the majority of modern ones are terrible. They're not as good as old sports cars or supercars. They're just not. And then they're just so common now. They come out as one a week now. It used to be one every 2 years. It's now not. It's boring. And to be quite frank, why would you own one if you can own something that's more fun, easier to drive, well, not easy to drive, but easier to use, more engaging, has more character than that? Because, yeah, they might be good, but they're not true great cars. I mean, a great car is very different to a good car. There are specific things that go into a great car. And the main 3 things of that is the character, how engaging they are, and the rarity of them. Supercars aren't rare anymore. There's hundreds of thousands of them around the world. And in the UK, there's 3,500 Huracans in the UK on the road. There's 43 Lotus Carltons. That's rare. That is rare, not a Huracan. They're not rare. They're as flipping common as a Ford Fiesta nowadays. Character, the Huracan has none. Engaging, well, it's an automatic, so that's completely ruled it out. And it's 4-wheel drive. They're the main 3 things. Performance is the last thing I think of when it comes to a car. Because it's not important. It just isn't. It doesn't matter if you can go 0 to 60 in 10.5 seconds or 1.5 seconds. It doesn't matter. It's not about that. It's about what the car feels like when you're doing that. if the car, for example, the Carlton to 0 to 60 has a claimed 5.2 seconds. Now, it was faster than that. When you're in that car, you won't feel like you're doing it in 5.2. You'll think you're doing it a lot faster than that because you're in a four-door saloon. The context is important. When you're in a Huracan, you know it's going to do it in 3.2 seconds. So you aren't that surprised when it's that first. That's what it is. The context and the context create the surprise and the excitement that you get when you drive a car. So if you're in an old classic Mini, that car only has 70 horsepower, but because the Cooper S, by the way, but they have a charm to them that, and they're dead tiny and light. You are flabbergasted when you realise that the 0 to 60 time is just a shade over 10 seconds because it's not powerful. But the context of being in a Mini, you think this is going to be dead slow. It creates the excitement and the surprise when you realise that it's actually first and you engage with it and it's got character and it's fun and you create sort of, sounds weird, but you have an emotional bond with your car. It sort of becomes your best mate and you love your car. It's like an Alfa. Why would you have an Alfa if they break down every day? Because it has character. When it breaks down, you do it. You fix it up. You cry with it at the side of the road. It's what creates a truly great car that matters. And most modern supercars, most dream cars that people have nowadays are not truly great cars. And that's why I like the Carlton, because it's a truly great car. It has all the technicalities that go into a truly great car. And the fact is, it's widely unknown as well. But that's why I love them. That's why I absolutely adore them. And I always will. And that's why I also like this Sapphire Cosworth as well. That's my realistic four-door family dream car. The Carlton's less realistic because there's a lot less of them and they're really expensive. But my realistic dream car is the four-door saloon, is the Sapphire. In fact, my dream two-car garage would be a Mark 1 MX-5 and a Sierra Sapphire Cosworth. They would be the two cars I would buy. And that's it. I would live just with those two cars, nothing else. Completely bone stock original. Original wheels, original gearbox, original paint, colours. Nothing aftermarket except from a couple of stickers on the rear bumper of the Mazda. Maybe, suppose I'd maybe do air filters and a bit of exhaust job, but I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't go 400 horsepower in the Mazda MX-5 and 600 in the Sapphire. I wouldn't do that. I'd keep them bone stock, originality, because that is key to a car. That it makes a really great car also. And that's it. That's what my two-car garage would be. But if I ever was fortunate enough to earn enough money to get a Carlton, I would. And I would then join that with the Mazda and then a Sapphire Cosworth, because it's not about what basically the saying goes, never judge a book by its cover, because if you judge that book and you think it's terrible and it's not, you'll be surprised when you realise how good it is and how bad the better sounding book is when you actually get behind the wheel. That's basically what it is. For example, Ferrari SF90. To be honest, I think that's probably the ugliest sporty car on the planet at the minute. I think it's terrible. It looks horrible. The person who designed it should be sacked. It is actually terrible to look at. I think the 911 Turbo S, the rear end of that is terrible as well. Absolutely terrible back end of a car. It looks awful. Anyway, that's the example. You will judge that and think, that'll be a very good book. You'll look at the Carlton and go, oh, that'll be a very terrible book. No, it's the other way around. The Carlton is a way better car than the SF90. The SF90, firstly, it's a Prius, basically. It's pointlessly quick. It's not very good to drive because it's just basically a hybrid Ferrari with a V8 with an automatic gearbox, and it isn't fun at all. Basically, watch Chris Harris's review of it. He was disappointed with it. I'm not surprised. If you want a Ferrari, get yourself an F40. That's basically what the advice. The Vauxhall fits into all the technicalities that you want in a perfect driver's car. That is all. If you are a proper car guy, all you want is a car that is good to drive, understated, getting rare, and that is very cool. If you put all of that into context, you will end up with a classic M3, a Sierra Sapphire Cosworth, a Carlton, pretty much any car pre-2000, basically, unless you have an E39 M5, which I would buy one of those as well because they're awesome. And basically, that's what you end up with. You end up with a car that realistically is 1,000 times better than modern equivalents, basically. So that will conclude this video before I get onto a rant. Yeah, I just can't really express enough why I don't like modern cars. Because it's not an opinion this time, it's actually a fact that they are nowhere near as engaging or as fun as classic supercars or sports cars or whatever you want to call them. I don't give a toss. They're just not. It's a fact of life. It's been proven, it's been written down on sheets of paper, it's been videoed on YouTube. Car Throttle have gone, oh yeah, I'd rather have an old car, I'd have a 1.9 litre diesel Skoda over a modern supercar. It's been said thousands of times over the internet. It's just the fact of life. So if you have a dream car that's something modern, something that was worth £1 million, get rid of it out of your dream car list, because you're never going to own it. It's not that good, it'll be disappointing when you actually do come to own it, if you ever do. And set it something that is more realistic and that you can have the joy of actually knowing about. I'll never be rich enough to own a Carlton. Never. But I don't care, because the thing with that car is I know it's a truly great car. And I know that I'll never own one from the fact that there's 43 of them left. Not that the value is anything to be bothered about, because you can get them from about 60,000 quid now, which is 10 times less than most people's dream cars. So I don't need to worry, basically. I have a dream car that's realistic to be set at. The most unrealistic dream car I have in the top 5 is the Bristol, because there's about 6 that they made. So that's the least likely, but I mean, still more realistic than some people's dream cars when they have their top 5 as Ferraris and Lambos only. I mean, good luck, firstly. It's not that they're in limited quantity, it's just that they're unrealistic. It's just pointless. I don't understand why you'd need that in your life. You don't. You can't have fun in that every day. The 90%, when you are an adult, unless you're a YouTuber like Shmee or something, you will never have the time to just go out and drive a supercar. And when you do go out to drive that supercar, you are stuck with speed limits, other road users, pedestrians, the roads aren't acceptable, they're not flat enough, they've got undulations, potholes, they're too this way, they're not wide enough for Lamborghinis. Lamborghinis get stuck in hedges in the UK all the time. They're full of rain mainly in the UK specifically. And the maximum you can drive in the UK anyway is 70 miles. Now, it's actually a lot less in other countries. America is a massive culprit for terrible speed limits as well. But I don't see why you would spend £1 million on a car that you can't use all of the time. Because if I wanted, say I did work, I could go to work in the Carlton. But then say I had time off work, I could go a week off or 2 weeks off. I could go on a road trip in it. I could then, when I get to the Nürburgring, drive around it quicker than most of the people would be able to in their stupid supercars, which are awful. And then I can drive home. And I can take people with me on that road trip, not just me on my own, or with one person. I can take a bunch of mates with me. I mean, albeit they might want to go in their own cars, but say they don't, just they want to come for a bit of a laugh, I can take them around and have a bit of a historical tour of Germany, go to Berlin and stuff like that. That's why I like it, because I can do everything with it. I can literally, it's basically every type of car that you want in one. So if you want a sports car, you have it. If you want a car that can go across countries, you've got it. It's a GT car as well. If you want a four-door saloon, that's basically what it is. It's got a big boot. You can do everything with it. You don't have to then buy another car in order to have, like, specific things. So if you owned a supercar, you would then have to buy another car in order to take your kids to school and have it as a daily driver, because you can't daily a normal, like a Lambo or something. It's just not possible. And the insurance is another big culprit to supercars, so it's not possible. You would have to then fork out more money to do that. I could just spend 60 to 100k on a Lotus Carlton and have everything I need, and it'd be better than the majority of cars. So that's why they're so brilliant, and I want one. I know I'll never have one, but for me the thing is that the step down from that is the Sapphire, because that is the baby version of the Carlton, because of how good that is as well. Awesome. Love them. That is genuinely my money no object dream car. So when people ask me, it takes a lot of explaining, but it shouldn't need explaining, because the actual issue is people being obsessed with stupid, pointless supercars nowadays and not knowing enough about proper classic gems like the Carlton. So then guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my rant about how good the Vauxhall Lotus Carlton is. I want to know what your dream cars are now that you have watched this video. Now everybody is entitled to their own opinion. I respect that, and I respect everybody's. I will not criticise you in any way unless the car is truly terrible. But obviously everything that has been said in this, apart from the Vauxhall being a fabulous car, has been sort of an opinion. But I know that there are a lot of people that I do genuinely know that would agree 100% with what I've said about modern supercars. And there are a lot of famous people in particular who also agree, and the majority of the Car Authority team would agree that classic cars are better than modern cars to drive. And yeah, basically. But if you have several £1 million supercar in your dream cars, I would understand that. I mean, it's fair enough, but I wouldn't have it as your number one. I think you should all reconsider your number one. Try and get a car that is everything in one, like the Carlton. So it doesn't have to be four-door. I mean, like any GT car, basically, that's fast, like a modern one. If you want a modern one, get like a Ferrari 812 is a good example. I mean, they're a brilliant car. I mean, they handle well. They go like Sting. They can do 211 miles an hour, which is pointlessly fast, obviously. But it's a GT car. So it's got a big boot. It's luxurious, fairly. But then it can also do the track and the other stuff that you need to do. And you could probably daily drive one as well. It's got cylinder deactivation and all the mod cons that you need. Heated seats, that are warm, like everything. Sat nav, whatever you need. Which I don't like modern technology. The Lotus Carlton has none of that, but it's not something to my taste. But for example, if you wanted something modern that's fast and a good everything car, that's what I would recommend people have their number one dream car as. Something that can be used for going around the track, can be used for maxing on the autobahns in Germany, but then also something that you can daily drive, that you can go on road trips in, that can basically do any, unless you're in the situation where you can have multiple cars. Even still, I would say your number one dream car should be something that's good at everything, because it actually makes the experience a lot better. But still, I want to know what your dream cars are in the comments below. Please drop them there. Hope you agree with mine. I hope you don't find it a little bit odd. I know it does appear that at first, but having explained what the car actually is, I hope that you fully understand why I like this thing. I've explained it many a times to people and they go, actually, that's fair enough, because they think, oh my god, it's a Vauxhall. Don't think that. Don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge the Kia Stinger by its badge. That's what I say to people. Don't judge. It's a fabulous car. Don't judge the Vauxhall Lotus Carlton by the fact it's got a little round Vauxhall badge on the front, on the bonnet. Everywhere else it has Lotus badges. There isn't actually a badge on it that says Vauxhall written in letters. It doesn't actually say that. It literally has one Vauxhall badge on the front, 2 Lotus badges on the sides, and it says Lotus and then Carlton at the back. You will see pictures of it. There's not really any Vauxhall badges on the whole thing. So just don't judge it, because you will be there in your high-end supercar on a back road. One will come flying past you and you will not be able to keep up. And then you will be ashamed of the fact that you judged that car. And that's why I like them, because they can give supercars an absolute battering. And to be honest, they deserve it for being so terrible nowadays. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoy my content and put that notification bell on. And I will see you very soon for some more videos. Take care of yourselves, and obviously comment below all of your suggestions and opinions.